Welcome to the Acknowledge to Action podcast. I am your host, Matthew Benko. In episode 18, titled Healing Through Grief, A Journey of Service, Loss, and Advocacy, Angel Munoz shares her powerful story of service and loss. Angel talks about her deep military roots and the immense support her family received after the loss of her brothers. Robert Arsiaga, a U.S. Army soldier killed in action in 2004, and Jeremy Arsiaga, a U.S. Marine Corps veteran who passed away in 2015 after battling PTSD. Angel reflects on her journey from struggling with recognition for her service to finding her true mission, telling her family's story and advocating for veterans. She also discusses the healing power of equine therapy and overcoming grief and trauma. We also hear about Robert's legacy, which is honored in the National Geographic miniseries, The Long Road Home, based off Martha Raditz's best-selling book, capturing the 8-hour battle in Sadr City on April 4th, 2004. This episode wraps up with a tribute to her brother Jeremy, through the song Jeremy, a moving reminder of the struggles many face. The song was provided through songwriting with soldiers. Welcome to episode 18, and thanks for tuning in. Angel, thank you so much for being here today. Welcome to the Acknowledge to Action podcast. I'm really looking forward to our conversation today. You have an amazing story. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me to be a part of this.
Oh, sure. As we talked about a few weeks ago, well, about a month or so ago now, I thank you for trusting me because I'm really just a little bit you shared with me. I've been incredibly moved by what you shared with me, and this is some of the layers we're going to pull back today. So tell us a little bit about yourself. I know we have a mutual connection. Eddie Arambula, he was on a couple episodes ago. So this speaks to the power of the network, power of being veterans, and all that stuff we've exchanged so far. But tell us about you, Angel. What branch of service, how you're connected, and the incredible military family that you have.
Well, I joined the Army back in 1996, right out of high school. My mom likes to say I started it all. When it comes to me and my brothers all serving. But I did. I went back in 1996 and wanted to do something bigger than myself. It wasn't about necessarily getting away from Midland. I just knew that I had a different purpose and shocked everybody by joining the Army and gained some pretty good experience from that. I did not stay my whole entire time, the whole 4 years, but what I left with was it was priceless and prepared me for what was to come after my service. And my brothers all joined one by one after me. And, that's kind of where my family is at the moment. When it comes to our service, we all just thought that we would do something that mattered. And that was the way that we chose to do it.
Yeah. So it sounds like you're the older sister who set the example and what was an incredible example for your brothers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. My mom jokes around, and like I said, she says I started it all, and it was really funny story about that. My brother Jeremy, he was the last one to join. He joined the Marine Corps, just like my brother Gilbert. And when he joined, the recruiters gave my mom an honorary recruiter certificate because all 4 of her kids joined. And when I was looking through some paperwork, I noticed and realized that the recruiters gave me an honorary recruiter certificate.
Nice.
Yeah. So, but yeah, me and my brother Robert, who's just a year younger than me, joined the Army. And then my little brother Gilbert and my little brother Jeremy joined the Marine Corps.
Okay. And where's home for you? Where was home for you? It sounds like you had a tight-knit community and a good neighborhood feel, because you said you mentioned, I say that because you said you didn't do it to leave. I forget what town you said, how you opened up, but tell us a little bit about where you came from and where you're at.
Well, maybe a little bit to leave Midland. It's Midland,
Okay.
Texas. We come from a very small community here in Midland called Greenwood. It's
Okay.
actually recognized as like a little suburb now. So Greenwood, Texas is on the map now.
All
Uh,
right.
so that's where we come from. It is very tight knit. I mean, when we were out here and I graduated from high school, there was only 80 of us. So that tells you how small our area is. But Midland itself has been uh, grow, growing, but it was small then too. And when some things happened in my family, there was nothing like being from here,
Yeah.
because they showed so much support and showed up for my family, and it was pretty amazing. It made me even be more proud of uh, what we did and where we came from.
Yeah. That just a little bit of understanding I had with that. I was incredibly moved when you gave me some of the information that I know we're gonna to talk about here shortly. That's pretty cool. I'm looking forward to that. Before we get into that, just tell us. I'm always curious because the acknowledge the action. We're all about talking about the journey, and wherever you're at, you're not alone, and it may feel that way. You said you were in high school when you joined the Army, right?
Mhm.
And I sometimes I like to ask it this way, and this is coming from my own experience, and I don't know if it was a line of sight for me because the Air Force recruiter was the closest to the high school, or the Air Force found me, or did I pursue it? So I asked that with others too. Like, did the Army find you, or did you find it, or was it a combination? How the Army, why the Army? I always like to have a little fun with that. I'm always curious to see how that happens.
Well, kind of funny actually. That my whole from the jump from when I signed up to now, nothing but funny stories when it comes to my military service and how I ended up where I ended up. Uh, I don't know. I was dead set on becoming a Marine, and thank God I did not. But anyway, I had set up to meet with the Marine recruiter once. Went to the recruiter station, and the Marine recruiter stood me up. And I sat out there for a while. The Army recruiter, Staff Sergeant Carlos, I remember him. I'll never forget him. Uh, Came out, talked to me a little bit, chit chat, walked away, left me alone. Second time I tried to meet with the Marine recruiter, it was raining, and the Army, same guy, Staff Sergeant Carlos, comes in and pulls me from outside and says, "Hey, why don't you wait in here? It's raining," and got stood up again and tried one last time. I say one last time because it was the third time I tried to meet the Marine recruiter and he stood me up. And by that time, Staff Sergeant Curtis was like, "Hey, nah, no, you obviously want to do something, so why don't you come talk to me? Sit in here
Hmm.
with me and talk to me." I signed that day pretty much to start the process, just because he was very straightforward. He didn't sugarcoat anything. He didn't try to sucker me into going to the Army. He told me straight up how things were in the process, and step by step, he was right there the whole time, uh, by my side through maps, through taking my ASVAB, to everything. Signing me up for the delayed entry program because I was actually still in high school when I signed.
Yeah, I was
And
gonna say, were you a senior in high school or
yeah, mhm,
close to? Yeah, okay, yeah,
yeah. And so I was like, I was even more excited. I mean, he walked me through everything, and it was such a neat process about that part of it. And my favorite part was when we're in basic training. We just got there. We're all in at the reception station, and there's all kinds of people crying on the phone, cussing out their recruiters. And I call him. I'm like,
uh,
man, thank you for not lying to me, and thank you for telling me the truth. And I'm happy to be here. And you know, a couple of times it didn't seem like I was gonna make it through, but I did, and that was one of the my most distinct memory, and what I love the most about that. And I still get a little emotional about it. Was walking across the field on
yeah,
graduation day. Oh man, I was crying. And it was a great accomplishment because honestly, I didn't think I could do it. There was quite a few people that didn't as well, but I am very stubborn, and so I wanted to prove everybody wrong and prove myself wrong. And I guess I kind of already had the soldier mentality before I even went, because I was going to do it, and I was going to do something that mattered, and I did.
Yeah. That's it's nice hearing those stories of because that's such a profound or unique experience. It's a one of a kind experience, and especially being so young. You're 17, 18, right out of high school, right? So how soon? So after graduating high school to going in, what was it? Because you did the delayed enlistment, which put you in a position to, all right, I'm a senior in high school and I'm going to the Army soon after. So how soon after high school? How soon after graduating were you off to boot camp or basic training?
I graduated in May, and I was gone in September.
Wow. Okay. So
Yeah.
yeah, like a couple months, but then it was right into it. Okay.
Yeah.
So it sounds like there was there's a lot of discussion on what boot camp or basic training is going to do, and it's a pretty intense experience for most, if not all, right?
Yeah.
But a lot of what doesn't get covered for any number of reasons is what life is like after post military. And one of the reoccurring themes we've had with most of our guests on Analysis Action was post MEPS. Everyone usually always references recruiter and MEPS at some point in our conversation here with Acknowledge Action. MEPS, Military Entry Processing Station, but what it's evolved to post military MEPS is mental, emotional, physical, social, and spiritual, and that's so important. And I know how I was, but for the average 17, 18, you're not really thinking about that stuff in great detail, right? I think it's fair to say out of high school, you're just trying to figure things out. But as you get older and there's more life experiences, they carry a little more weight. And I bring all that up, and I ask that because how even I know you said you didn't do your 4 years and whatnot, but when you got out of the Army, how were you different? How did that change, and how did that set you up for what was to come?
It gave me, in the beginning, to be really honest, I had a hard time even telling people I was in the military or accepting any kind of recognition, because I felt at that time that I fell short of what I was called to do. And so I was hard on myself for quite a few years, to be really honest. But what I walked away from was, and what I noticed throughout the years, was my heart was growing bigger, and gearing myself towards a different mission that I just basically, probably within the last couple of years, realized what that was for me. But I left with the extreme sense of duty to my fellow veterans and service members. And then when my little brothers started to join one by one, I realized that I was supposed to be here for them, to help them out in the end. Like I said, it took me a while. I was really, really hard on myself. I beat myself up a lot. Didn't feel like I deserved what everybody, what they were, the acknowledgement that they were getting, because my family ended up, as I told you a little bit earlier, we all served, and all three of my brothers went to Iraq. And it did give me some sense of understanding that, hey, this is what we were called to do. Because when September 11th happened, that was big. That was real big in general to everybody. I walk out the restroom because I was getting ready for work. And I remember standing there, and my first thought was, that's it. This is it. This is what we signed up to do. There's something's about to happen, for my brothers, and not knowing, the impact that it would have. And it was really after my first brother was killed in action that I started to really realize, that my duty in my service was to tell my family's story. Okay. And my brother's story in the beginning, was just Robert's. And then I started to tell his story. It took me a long time. And then, we had some other stuff happen in my family that I know we'll get to in a minute, but that's really what I think that I walked away from. Thank God, I had that understanding, because I did sign that same line. It could have happened while I was there, and I would have went, and almost wanted to go back as soon as that started happening. And I was not qualified anymore to be, to go back, but I wanted to, and my mom got a hold of me and said, you can never go back. Like, don't do that. And then, the things that happened started happening. And, it again gave me a different sense of duty and mission that I know I have.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about that? What your mission is now, because that's pretty. The word comes to mind is profound. There was a number of years there that went by, and you're trying to figure out things could feel like they're lost in translation, even when you're in the moment of experiencing something so impactful. But it wasn't until 10 plus years after you get out of the military where you're like, okay, this is what I'm meant to do. This is where my heart is. This is what I bring to the table through a combination of experiences and so if you could just touch upon that, how you came to that acknowledgement piece, how you had that moment with yourself. It's like, okay, yes, this is tough. This is hard. You already mentioned, your brother was killed in action. He was your youngest brother, or what was he?
It was me. I'm the oldest, and then my brother Robert's second. And then my brother Gilbert is, I guess, the middle child. And he actually went to Iraq with the Marine Corps in 2003. And then Robert got his orders and went to Iraq in 2004. He was killed in Sadr City, Iraq, on April 4th, 2004. You mentioned earlier our unique connection to Eddie. Arambula, we call him Eddie, and so he was a part of that battle that my brother was killed in. And then my brother Jeremy was set to go to Iraq in 2004 as well. And I believe my brother Gilbert remembers all the dates better than I do. But he was set to go to Iraq that same year, but because my brother Robert was killed, they kept him stateside. They did not send him. And he finally went to Iraq in 2008. He was actually home probably, I'd say, a couple of years, and got called back and told my mom that this time he has to go. He could have petitioned to stay, stateside or whatever, and be of use here, but he chose to go to Iraq, and he came back, and then we lost him as well in 2015 to suicide. He took his own life. And it was a little bit after Robert where the stirring started, where gotta tell our story. This has got to be, this is unique. All four of us went, and we got to make a difference with this. We got to take something good, something terrible and sad, and turn it into something good. And kind of procrastinated quite a bit after that, still not feeling like I was worthy of telling that story. And then when my brother Jeremy passed away, is really in 2015, was the first time in years that I reached out to the VA for help for myself. Because I instantly got thrown into some really dark stuff and really needed help. And the only way that I knew I was going to make a difference is if I took care of myself first. And through that process, learned how everything went for us once we do reach out to the VA for help. And even then, I think my mission is to, if each time we share our story, we save one other person, that's more than enough for me. But I still, I'm starting the steps to hopefully go back to school and do social work so I could be a veterans advocate in our area, because in our area alone, we don't have that many. Actually, we don't hardly have any at all. So my brothers used to joke, right, that I was loud and crazy, and I am. But I always say that they left the wrong sister behind, because I'm not going to shut up about it. I think this is important for people to know our stories, whether it's the sad or the happy part. The sad part is a part of it. The struggles that my brothers are going through or went through, it's important to tell. I go back to that all the time, that's that's what it was. I lost another good friend of mine who was also an Army vet. He's actually my best friend. Lost him to the same stuff that I lost my little brother to. And I remember something I said there at his service was, we wore the same uniform. Our missions were different. And mine was to speak up and to love on those that feel like they're alone in all this. But that's what I believe my mission is now. Is I'm starting that process, and hopefully, in the next couple of years, I'll be good. Just to really, my dream is to really start a nonprofit in our area, uh, to help veterans in our community.
Well, thank you for sharing that story, because I know how incredibly hard that is to share something that's very challenging and very hard. Your brother Robert was killed in action, and then Jeremy, he took his own life, and it's the grieving process is so significant and so ongoing and so challenging. And when you share the story, I could only imagine because there's, like you mentioned, like I'm sharing, you're sharing your family story because you want to help others. But every time I imagine you share you not relive it, but can you talk about that dynamic, the challenges of that, but with your mission to help people, to talk about that mission and how the impact of sharing your story and the feelings and the emotions behind it, how sharing that leads to empathy, and it leads to others, people on a path to grieve, and to channel that into ways that are helpful. Because you briefly touched upon it, because I know we talked about it a month or so ago, but can you talk about how your town rallied around you and came to support that? Because I just, from me thinking about what we've talked about, I can only imagine how critical that was to help you get on the path of healing and identify this mission set that you're establishing for yourself.
Yeah, that was actually like a lot of it was a big blur to me at that time. But looking back, I just remember random people just showing up the first couple of days. We didn't know them. They just got the name because it was in the news. My brother was the first soldier from Midland that was killed in the war with Iraq. He was the second in our area to be killed in the war on terrorism, and so it was a big deal. Somebody from such a small community, and random people show up with trays of food, toiletries. Who get real emotional about that, because it was strangers that didn't even know us. They would just show up. There was a guy, I do believe I know who he is now, but he flew an American flag at his rig site. And when he heard about what had happened, he brought the flag to us. He didn't know us, and he came and, brought that flag to us. And our school, or no, at first our cousin did. He came, put a flag, our very first flag pull up in that time. And I remember that being like the first time the flag was raised in our yard. Um, I just remember being stupid proud of my family and my community, because honestly, I think if we didn't have that, we'd be more at a loss. We got super lucky in that sense. My family's huge, and they rallied around us. My whole family, honestly, we have quite, I, I can't even count the number of us that have served in the military. And so that was pretty cool, too, because that kind of helped us kind of stay afloat in the beginning. I think, well, I think for me and my brothers, when I say that we kind of understood, that yes, it was sad what had happened, but, this was, our duty, and it could happen to any of us. And so when we get that support from our family and our community and the news, told our story over and over again. And I think one of the best parts of it was Laura Bush was here in Midland moving her mother just 3 days after we got the word. And so, of course, it was in the news, and she caught the news and got the Secret Service to get a hold of my mother. It was raining for some reason. I remember it raining a lot around that time, and she came out to Greenwood. She came out to Greenwood, came out to my mom's house, visited with my mother, and acknowledged the loss and her appreciation. That was big. That kind of started the fire in all of us, really. To wow, this is big. This is bigger than ourselves, and this is going to be something. Just watch. My mom would always tell us that, that we were going to make history of some kind, and how we ended up doing just that. One by one, we ended up doing that, and that kind of started the deal too, where my mom has been kind of like the family spokesperson in the area, probably because she knows I like to talk, but it's because of that tight-knit, close community that I even have the courage, to do that, because I know I have the support here. So that was pretty neat. That was actually very inspiring around that time. The support from the guys, and it was a second, if not, I wouldn't say close second. It was top tier. If it wasn't for that, we really would be lost. Having that sense of, man, they loved my brother probably more than we did, and we loved him big. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But to me, seeing that love for my brother and my family, there's nothing like it. I wish my brother was still here. I really do, but thank God for these people. That's part of the unit. Eddie's one of them. Actually, he's the one that pushes me to do a lot of the stuff that I do now.
Yeah, the power of networking and all that, just to be, because I connected with Eddie, which then connected me with you, and it just grows. It's incredible, and how important that is, and how a network, whether it's our local community for you, like Midland and Greenwood, right? They just rally around. As overwhelming as that can be, it so. What I'm trying to say is, as hard as that is, and those emotions we feel when we lose a loved one, it's because of all the love and that bond we have. We wouldn't be feeling those things if it wasn't for that incredible foundation of love, the power of love. Arguably one of the most, if not the most powerful emotion there is out there, that could do so much good in the world. And there's, when you mentioned the first lady at the time, Laura Bush, right? You used the word ignite. She came to your mom's house and acknowledged the loss of Robert, right? The power of, and I'm not, even if this podcast wasn't called Acknowledge to Action, I would still be talking about the term acknowledge right now, the way it is the first and foremost thing we need to lead to healing, recovery, action, anything. And when we get it externally, especially from a powerful member of society, whether it's a government official, locals in the community, it does something. It does something. And I think it speaks, and this is just my opinion, Angel, and it speaks how those experiences, it's like you take that, absorb, and it's like, okay, now what can I do for this? And it lays out a path for you. And you're on the path now to become because social workers are so incredible, especially within the veteran community, and how impactful that they could be. So here you are taking this incredibly challenging experience with losing a sibling like this, and experiencing the power of networking and the community, and how it could help, and how arguably it's one of the most critical variables to healing and to leading to where you are today. And that's the power of the story here. So you said like around 2018, right? You started like, all right, you started seeing things clearly, right? You said things were like a fog and a daze for quite some time. over a period of years after after your brother Robert killed in action and Jeremy taking his own life. Right? I could only imagine how overwhelming that is, and how that just, like you said, it fogs things up, right? And what happened in 2018 that allowed you to, whether it's the dust to settle, to see things clearly, to identify that mission and that path that you put yourself on to help others and to help others in the community?
Actually, probably around the time that the miniseries came out that they did. So we got word that they were going to do an 8-part miniseries through National Geographic. My brother Jeremy died in September of 2015. We got word towards the end of that year that they were going to go do it. And then it aired in 2017. And it aired across the world.
And then that featured the book. So that featured your brother Robert, and it was a long road home, right? Yeah.
Yeah, so that came out. Martha Radix, actually, who wrote The Long Road Home, she's the one that called and told me,
Wow.
that they were going to do this. So we have this amazing human being who took interest in our story, not just the battle part, but each individual family's story, and helped put this come to fruition, right? Like the miniseries, and with the help of an amazing screenwriter, Miko. And I don't want to say his last name because I don't know. I don't think I'll say it right. But when that aired, my mom had gotten a message from somebody in one of the Asian countries. I can't remember exactly where he's from, but he private messaged my mom. He found her on Facebook and private messaged her and told her that the miniseries aired in his home country. And it was my brother's story in particular that inspired him to join the military in his own country. And so my brother's name, my brother's story is being told all across the world. So when I realized that happened, the significance of what happened to my brother Robert was big and very important to tell. But then we lost Jeremy, and I thought, Robert's story is told now. It's time. I'm not going to wait. Like with Robert, it was at the 10-year reunion. It was the first time I ever publicly spoke about my brothers. I had the honor of speaking in front of the entire battalion for the 10-year reunion. And they gave me about 10 minutes to share a little bit of what I had to say. And at that time, there's a picture that I have. So that was the first time I spoke, so I was scared, deathly afraid of public speaking. And there's a picture I have where I'm walking away from the podium, and both my brother Gilbert and my brother Jeremy were there, standing beside me. And I felt like I could do anything with my brothers by my side. Because at that time, I didn't see them as just my brothers. I saw them as my brothers in arms. Which that support is, again, I can say it over and over again, that there's nothing like it. Mm-hmm. And so that was the beginning, right? And then it took me 10 years to do that. And then Jeremy died, and then the show came out. I was like, there's no way I'm going to take another 10 years to share Jeremy's story. Mm-hmm. I feel like men and women of the military, that this is their choice, to leave. Their stories deserve to be told too. So I think that was very significant when that show came out, because I was like, all right, it's time to tell Jeremy's story. And that's what I've been trying to do since around that time, and little by little, there's an extra push. I'll do something, I'll procrastinate because I get scared and have the fear of letting people down, which nobody puts that pressure on me but myself. And then I lost my best friend, Isaac, to suicide as well. And So recently, the big fire, the big push was enough is enough. And now it's time to share our story in a very big way. So I committed to equine therapy. Been going for quite a few years. It's a program here in Midland at the Horse Center that they provide free to veterans and first responders.
Mm-hmm.
That was significant in getting me to where I am. That was very significant to getting me to have the courage to tell our story. I've done a few different things to do that. One of the things is there is an organization called Songwriting with Soldiers. They do many retreats over the years. I've done many retreats. I was able to be a part of an all-female retreat in Belton, Texas, and they helped me take part of my story and put it to song. We partnered with 2 different songwriters, and they helped me write a song about my brother Jeremy. And so I got to do that, right? And that was super cool because I got pushed by a Vietnam vet at the restaurant I worked at. At that time, we were open for dinner, and he pushed me. He pushed me to sign up for that, so I got to go, and that song is out. And then I my other therapy really is writing. And so I know I talk about Eddie a lot, but man, he really pushes me. And so he pushed me to go to our writing seminar that I went to last year. And I got to write I guess you could say it was like a memoir, right? So I got to do that. And what that organization does, it's called the War Horse. It's a nonprofit newsroom founded by a retired Marine. And so they do the same thing. They take our stories and they help us write them and publish them. They actually pay us to publish them. And so that's super cool. Some of the things that have happened in just the recent years, all because of my affiliation with and my love for other veterans, because I opened up to them, because I feel more comfortable.
Yeah.
I word vomit when I meet someone, especially a Vietnam vet. And what's funny about that Vietnam vet, now that I think about it, is his name was Robert.
Yeah.
So, I used to not believe in coincidences so much, but, I don't put it past my brothers to be the ones pushing me right now, even though they're not here. And so that's really like, what came from all that. It was a big push. Martha's a big support. Anytime I write anything, I send it to her to get her opinion.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool. That's what keeps us going, is those opportunities that keep coming up, and the people that I've crossed paths with over the years because of these losses. And I can't wait to do more. And that's why I got really excited when I got pushed to do this too. And it's not like anybody twisted my arm, but my anxiety gets the best of me, and so I get a little fearful of that. But I think that this is only the beginning for me and for my family.
That's really empowering to hear, because you said anxiety, right? That anxiety is energy. It's just like, where do I channel this energy? And when we identify and we acknowledge it in the moment, we could channel it in a way. And it sounds easy. It's not easy by any means. But here, you mentioned that the 10-year reunion for Robert, right? It took you 10 years to build up that strength through opportunity, just thinking about it. And just the 10 years was the mile marker, right? Was the time. All right, this is time. And then you had that experience with your brother Gilbert and Jeremy right there by your side, right? And having that moment there, to build yourself up, right? Because there is an incredible amount of level of anxiety when public speaking, whether it's in front of a group of 5 people or 5,000 people. It's there, all right? And so here you are now, being very aware of that anxiety, but channeling it in ways that are leading to taking, because you said something earlier, Angel. You said, I had to take care of myself. I had to, there's that saying, meet myself where I'm at, but also to take it up a notch is create yourself where you're at too. Because it's one thing to meet yourself. It's like, okay, that's important. That's you can't create yourself if you don't know where you're at, right? But then here you are, in my opinion, from now you're taking it to the next level, like creating yourself, taking that energy. Anxiety is good. So sometimes, in a way, anxiety can be good when we acknowledge it for what it is and we channel it in ways that we want to. That could lead to taking care of ourselves and helping others, which you are, because you talked about the equine therapy, working with the horses, because we need those. Animals are incredible. If I could have my way, you know what I would do? I would. I'm not just saying this because of horses, but I would have a rescue shelter for dogs and horses, and just I would just love to take care of dogs and horses and allow people who are willing that. This is my wishful pipe dream down the road, but it really does something to help us process the grief, the ongoing grief that comes with these challenges.
Yeah, I want to touch a little bit on the horse therapy. Because when I originally started going, I went with, because I never, before that, committed to any kind of therapy. Uh, Walked out of the psychiatrist's office at the VA a couple of times. Swore I was never going to go back. Just wasn't committed to helping myself. And so one of the things I think is big between us veterans is if we make a promise to another veteran, we're going to do it.
Yeah.
Begrudgingly sometimes, but we're going to do it. And that's what happened. A fellow veteran, my friend Becca, met her at a little ceremony that we had here, honoring Vanessa Guillen, the young soldier that was killed in Fort Hood. And, we did a big thing here, and I got to speak at that event too. And that's how I met her. And she told me about equine therapy, right? And I was like, yeah, I'll go. She goes, no. Are you going to go? I said, yes, I promise I'll go. And that's where I messed up. Since I promised. And so I showed up, and I showed up with a nasty attitude. Like, nothing else has helped me thus far. Like, nothing's going to help me. I don't know how this is going to help me. Plus, I'm scared of horses. Those are some big, powerful animals, and I was scared. But I went because I made a promise. And again, the crappy attitude, and I stepped one foot in the arena, and I broke. I left that place crying. I'm a crybaby anyway, but that was big because I felt an instant release. The commitment wasn't instantaneous, though. It took me still about a year, maybe longer, about a year and a half to fully commit to, oh my God, this is helping me.
Yeah.
There was another time there at equine therapy where I was particularly having a bad and dark day, and I didn't really want to participate much. So I was just walking, and I happened to be like in the arena. She put these, for the lack of a better word, emoji type stuff, right? So here's mad, here's sad, whatever. And
Yeah.
just happened to be planted by angry. And to these two horses, I can't remember the other name, but one is called Demon. And I don't remember the other horse's name at the moment, but they cornered me. And they didn't corner me in a way that I felt threatened. Next thing you know, there's one horse on this side of me, one horse on this side. Their heads are both leaning on my shoulders.
Wow.
They were hugging me, is what the therapist told me.
Oh
and I lost it again. Like, you have no idea the weight lifted off my shoulder through that hug. Because a lot of times we share stories with humans, and they take it and they hurt us with their knowledge of our stories, and not the horses. They don't care. They don't care about what you look like, what you smell like, how you feel that day. They care about how you feel. So there's numerous times where the horses did stuff like that, and there was two in particular that adopted me, I guess you could say. There's Buddy. He was the first one. He's a beautiful black horse. He's one of the older ones there. He picked me. Why? I don't really know. I think some of my personalities, I guess you could say, were, Buddy.
Yeah.
And then the other one was Mayhem. His name fits him. He's wild. He's crazy. Not reserved at all. But the therapist tells me that those two horses picked me because I have Buddy, where I was very shy and apprehensive. And he reeled me in. He got me there with his calmness, and Mayhem got me there with his stubborn attitude. And it's like the accomplishment. I started out quiet and sad and reserved, and now I'm out there. I kind of went from one horse to another, and there's one more horse that is working her way towards me, and her name is Crescent. And that's because she says I am getting to the point to where I don't need it as much. I'd say probably been 4 years. And now I'm at the point where I'm trying to gather others and be kind of like their guidance towards that. And so that's what I think is those horses are amazing. Like I couldn't even touch it. I was so scared. And now I
Yeah.
can walk from behind the horse. I could talk to it. I actually fight back when they're being stubborn. They laugh at me because I'm over there. I don't even know how big horses are, like their weight, tons, and there's little bitty old me standing in front of the horse arguing with them because they're trying to nip at my hair or something like that. And I'm pushing them back. And, it's funny. It's funny to watch. I wish I could have more videos of me on that. But I have quite a few pictures as well there that they would always catch me by surprise because I lose myself there. Like, it's just amazing. I lose myself there in the sense of I can just, I'm not tense over there anymore. I don't feel the
Yeah.
tenseness in my shoulders. I don't feel sick to my stomach. I don't feel scared. I feel nothing but peace when I go there. And it's just amazing. I love that place.
It's almost in a way kind of that experience you had and that say transformation you had with horses to being afraid of them to now being very comfortable and confident with them is symbolic to a certain extent with life's circumstances, whatever throws it. Sometimes life could just throw. It's overwhelming at first. We're scared of it. We're intimidated to approach it and deal with it. And here the horses, it took you a year and a half, like you said, to fully commit. So on a smaller scale of life challenges, but here you went from you probably could never even make eye contact with a horse now to like riding one and talking to it and work collaborating with it. And I think sometimes in life could be that way too with the challenging things. We either avoid it or we're so intimidated by it we just don't deal with it, we suppress it, and we don't get to manage it in a way that leads to some redeeming moments from it, right? Because out of when we lose a loved one, it's terrible, it's hard, it's probably one of the hardest things we would ever go through, regardless if it's a sibling, parent, significant other, I mean, you name it, right? It's tough, but when you kind of go through the grieving process and embrace it, you're able to find the beauty in that. I hope I'm saying that right, because that's just how I'm hearing it and processing it. Because here, your brother Robert was he featured as one of the main characters in Long Road Home, or?
I would say, like, because each episode they told a different soldier's story.
Yeah.
So there was 8 episodes, 8 different soldiers. But what was super cool was my brother was mentioned in each episode. They didn't pick an
Okay,
episode where,
so I was
yeah.
tracking. I wanted because I wanted to listen,
Mhm.
make sure that this is an access point, because I'm incredibly interested. It's on my queue. I just have to. It's just sometimes tough just to sit down for an hour at times to just read, but just gonna do it. But okay, I'm sorry. I just want to. So your brother Robert is featured and he's referenced in the Long Road Home mini documentary series by National Geographic, right? So just
Yeah.
okay.
And how that happened really was the screenwriter Miko. He actually came to Midland, Texas, and sat in our living. Oh, did he come to Midland? Yeah, he came to Midland because he actually went to the cemetery with us to visit both of my brothers. But anyhow, he came here. He sat with us in our living room and got our story. And so at the 10-year reunion, one of the things I shared with Miko was at the 10-year reunion, and I still have what I wrote. I just got to find it, but I touched on, the importance of having a battle buddy and what that meant and what that means. And uh, Robert was just one of the 8 that were killed that day. And one of the others that was killed was my brother's best friend. Specialist Israel Garza, and he's from Lubbock. I shared the story about Robert and Israel because Robert and Israel, uh, Lubbock is what, an hour and a half, 2 hours from us, something like that. And so we're both small towns pretty much. And they were two peas in a pod. They never left each other. It was such a funny story because they looked so much alike that they could change their BDU talks and confuse people a little bit sometimes.
Huh.
They called them the twins in their unit. And so I shared all that, right? And then I shared how important being, a battle buddy is. And one of the things I said at the reunion was, although, I wish both Robert and Israel could be here, they were so close that I was grateful that they went together because the love was so strong between them that if one had to come back without the other, it would not have been good. And so I share that love, that I meant that in the sense they loved each other so much, that I think it was meant to be that way. And so when I shared all that with Miko, the very last episode was telling Israel's story. And he took what I wrote and what I said about that and put it in one of the scenes. It was a dream sequence, as if Israel was supposed to come back and Robert didn't. And it shows how he would have reacted once he realized Robert was gone. And so that was really big because he really touched on how any of us are, when that stuff happens, these battle buddies that we have, and the men who served with my brother, too. There's something else my brother Jeremy had said. It's about 5 years after the battle, and a couple of the guys finally showed up here in Midland and dropped off my brother's hat, and I think the accommodation was a CIB badge, combat infantry badge, I believe is what it is. Oh, I have to go get the hat so I could show you what it looks like because I have it here in my living room. But they left it on his headstone. The caretakers of the cemetery brought it and found us, and we reached out to the guys because they left their phone numbers in the hat. And so we got to meet two of them. One in particular was very distraught because there's a certain order to things when they get called out. Each person has their position on the truck. And, my brother accidentally got on the truck before him and was in his spot. And my brother ended up getting killed. Saying that it should have been him, that he was so sorry. He was apologizing to us that it should have been him. And my brother Jeremy said, don't say that, because it could not have happened to a better family. Losing Robert the way we did, it could not happen to a better family because we stand strong. We could do this together. And, that was significant to me, recalling my brother's words when he died, because I still felt that way. It couldn't have happened. I wish it wouldn't have happened, but it couldn't have happened to a better family, the strong foundation that we had of love. Grief is big, but love is bigger. And the bigger you love somebody, the bigger grief is. And I've learned to embrace that through sharing our story. And something I wrote in that little memoir touches on that grief and that love, and that's so motivating to me because, when Jeremy died, I made a promise that no matter how bad I got, no matter how dark I got, and that's what pushed me to go get help for myself, was that I was not going to leave until God called me home on his own. I was not going to leave. And although I've wanted to quite a bit over the years, really have, I got really dark a lot. And now I'm at this point where I'll have those moments and all I got to do is pick up the phone and call one of the guys or call my therapist and the horses are waiting for me. Family and love is life-saving. Having these battle buddies are life-saving, and having these programs afforded to us is life-saving. It literally saved my life. My brother's death actually saved my life. So, that's what my big push is, with everything I do. And I'm so lucky that we are so lucky that, these programs are here, like the Songwriting with Soldiers, the War Horse, and all these different organizations that help share our stories. But the most impactful, I think, for me was, like, I think you asked me earlier, the first question was really, no, tell me about you. I know your family has a story, but what about you? Your experience, how you feel. So when I went to that writing seminar, and I think it was East Texas somewhere, I can't remember if it is. Actually, it was not far from George Bush's ranch, where we were for the seminar. It was 4 days of us being secluded. The internet was horrible, so we really couldn't be on social media much, and I guess that was a hidden blessing, so we could focus right on our writing. And I think that was probably the most I ever talked about myself, uh, and my struggles, and how I've come to be where I'm at right now. And I'm hoping, that I can continue, to inspire people by sharing even the sad parts. It is taxing, to share our story. It is draining for a day or so, but it's worth it to me, because, like I said earlier too, is each time we share the story, we've found out that we've helped one more person. And every time I've publicly shared what I wrote at that seminar, and it's just beyond, it's just mind blowing, breathtaking, to know that it was not for nothing.
Yeah.
It really wasn't.
Is there any writing you like to share with us? Because it sounds like that you mentioned that a few times in our conversation today, as far as how writing was so therapeutic for you. Is there anything you want to share with us, or whether, if it's not today, I mean, we could put it in the links. We'll put it on the Acknowledge Action, website. But is there anything you would like to share? Do you have any writing you would like to?
Yeah. What I wrote at that seminar, for the War Horse, there's little snippets here and there that I felt like, I really wanted to share. I'll share a little bit at the beginning where it talks about my last memory of Robert. And because Robert, when Gilbert went to Iraq, I didn't have, or Jeremy too, when he went to Iraq, with them two, I didn't have that fear, that overwhelming fear of I was never going to see my brothers again. Um, they were going to come home, and I knew it. I felt it. God, I felt it. With Robert, not so much. I don't know why. I remember the spot he was sitting out in the living room. I'm looking right at it. Living room is kind of hard for me to be in sometimes for that reason. But I remember sitting there staring at him, and so this tells a little bit about that. It just says, my eyes were focused on his crooked smile and the scar on his lip, forcing myself to remember as much as I could about him. My brother said, I'm coming home, sister. But in my head, I thought, no, you're not. 3 months later, my brother Robert, forever my Bubba, I couldn't say his name growing up, so I called him Bubba. And so, he was gone. I immediately missed everything about him. I missed his smell, which was kind of funny. The body odor with a minute hint of deodorant, an uncommon smell to cherish, but one that made me want to bury my head into his armpit just one more time to joke with him. And then the next paragraph just shares that the journey from tragedy to blessings was the longest walk I ever had to take. And it has taken me nearly 19 years to get to the point where I am now. A sister grappling with the loss of 2 brothers and her best friend, one at war and the others to the invisible wounds that plague the men and women of our military. And then I share a little bit about my struggle too. My suicidal ideations and the things that have happened to me. And, this was before my service or after my service. Or, when I was in the grips of feeling unworthy and like I didn't know what my purpose was. And so I'll share a tiny bit of that, where, I was about to do something bad and screamed out to God, if he was real, that he needed to stop me from what I was doing. And he did, physically, audibly did. Sent my youngest son, my oldest son, to say some things. And, I that part, after my son said, Jesus is here, Mom, and he's with the baby and everything's going to be okay, I found myself crawling to the bathroom where I flushed the pills down the toilet and tore up the letters. In that moment, I did not know why God chose to save me. And then we lose Jeremy. And what I share about that is Jeremy's death in 2015 would turn out to be a life-saving event for me. For the first time since my time in the military, had reached out for help, beginning the process with the VA for assistance. For so long, I felt undeserving for this help, and I thought my brothers and my best friend deserved it more. I still don't understand why I was still here, and it took me 6 years for me to finally commit to therapy and the services I was receiving. And then in 2022, I lost my best friend Isaac, a fellow Army veteran. He took his own life, and it was amid gut-wrenching despair that I finally saw why God chose to save me all those years ago. I had been given a different mission. My service wasn't to be while I wore the uniform, it was to come after. My purpose became so incredibly clear. I am to share our stories and our journeys from darkness to light. And when you asked earlier about grieving and how strong that is, I shared, let me find that spot. Oh, I used to think the grief of losing both you and Jeremy was going to kill me. I felt the loss in my gut, and the physical pain at times was hard to bear. I used to long for sweet release just so I could be near you both. I love you both so much that life was almost unbearable without you. 19 years later, brother, I have seen the beauty this life has to offer. I, I have love in my life in ways I would have never expected, a few good friends who always have my back, and 3 boys you would be proud of. And I'm finally at peace with the fact that loving you and grieving you goes hand in hand. And the very last paragraph says, my journey is not done. My love for my brothers and best friend who passed away will never die. My hope for my surviving brother and others like us is to see that there is light in this life. Darkness will not win. The long walk from tragedy to redemption is worth the fight. The whole thing is incredible, just to spit that out, even the dark parts of me, which are scary, for me to share with my family. I'm somewhat like my brothers and kind of kept some of that to myself until recently, sharing that part of it. And there are so many ways that we can heal, and writing was definitely one of them for me. So that was big. That was big to be able to have that tool at my disposal.
Angel, all I could say is thank you for sharing that. I know you shared it with me a couple weeks ago in the email. Just getting it through the email was incredible. And I told you, I had a moment to myself, like I and because it was so. Just anybody who's going to listen to this is a forever access point on the World Wide Web, right? As long as there's internet connection, individuals are going to have access to your amazing story today, tomorrow, and for the years to come, right? And I can't thank you enough because you sharing Robert's story, we didn't really talk much about Jeremy's story and how difficult it is to talk about when one takes their own life, but we have to talk about it. We have to acknowledge it. We owe them their honor and their story too. It's very, very difficult, and we see it far too often, unfortunately, and especially in the veteran sector. And having you come on here, talk about it, and pull back some layers of vulnerability to share your thoughts and feelings and how you're manifesting that into turning grief into love, into help, into support, into access for others, because you continue on your journey of healing and getting stronger, and just being there is what we need. Yeah. So thank you. I said all I could say is thank you, and then I just gave you that, but that's what's behind my thanks, and I'm sure so many others who have heard your story or hearing your story. This is thank you.
Thank you for giving me, the opportunity to share, because, sometimes I just need that extra push. When I was in basic training, I had a battle buddy, Mendez. She's still my friend to this day. This is 1996 when I was in boot camp. Okay, so that was a long time ago. And so she is still a very good friend of mine. And without her, I would not. We're both real little, and so they made us rear road guards. And so we got real close because we were bonded by being the rear road guards and being tiny. And without her push, I couldn't have got through it. In AIT, there was a group of us that trained together. I'd say about a good 10 of us or so, probably, that were particularly close, and they're still my friends to this day. We have regular group meetings, on Facebook.
That's awesome.
Stuff like that. And if it wasn't for some of them, I definitely would not, I would not be here. The love is big. And I try to explain that to somebody outside of the military, and it doesn't make sense a lot, but to me it does. Like, it's an instant bond, right? So, they've pushed me to do things like this. And then my brothers is how I'll put it. They're my brothers too. And, not just Eddie, but quite a handful of the guys from the unit, have pushed me and encouraged me and my family, and then, outside of that, where I work at now, there's quite a few of us that are veterans, and it's an instant bond. Like, it's insane how quick that happens. And, if it wasn't for stuff like that, I would not be where I'm at right now, and wouldn't have the courage to do this and share our story and make an impact. And that's all I want to do at the end of the day, is make an impact, share our stories, all of them. I'll share this little bit. And recently have started trying to gather a little group again, to start going to horse therapy. And the two people that I've gotten to go are the younger generation. These are recent vets, in their early 20s. I've had the distinct pleasure of watching all three of them grow up, from the children. One is my best friend's niece. One of my best friend's niece, she joined the Army, and she went to her first time last week. And then another one is affectionately my white mama's grandson. I call her my white mama because she adopted me. But it's this younger generation that I feel led to hopefully impact them. And it looks like that's happening little by little. And it's that sense of brotherhood, that sense of deep duty and service to each other that keeps us here. And I think that's a key ingredient, to making it through all this. Having things like your podcast and those organizations that have helped me voice some big things. And I'm just grateful for you too.
I'm incredibly appreciative of just being able to be allowed into the network here a little bit, just to hear more, because trust is an earned thing. I was talking to somebody. I'm still in the Air National Guard. It was a military weekend for me. I was like, for most people starts at a baseline, and the stock could either go up or it could crash. But usually I'd like to give everyone like a fair opportunity. From there, it can only go up, or depending on your character, it could go down. So some words that come to mind as I get to know you better and hear your story more, and I think I'm always going to think about this is forever up here now, and it's forever a part of me now. Your love, your passion, your focus, and your determination. And what an amazing and beautiful combination that is, Angel. Seriously, because that's going to lead to others gravitating towards that, and they're going to take that, and that's what we need. And every span of humanity had their challenges, but all I could speak is for now, and we just need to be there for each other, support each other, arguably unconditionally, with love, respect, honesty, passion, and focus, and all these things that you're doing. So thanks again. I can't say that enough. In closing and all that, are there any part wherever somebody is in their journey of grief or challenges or lost in translation, what words of advice do you have for them?
I think, honestly, this is kind of coming from what my mom says nowadays too. Grief isn't always, it's the last measure of love. And so you embrace it You take those good days with those bad days and you embrace it, because how lucky are we to have had that great love, to miss somebody so much, to experience grief like that, I think is an honor. Um, and so you embrace it, you reach out. I'm just a phone call away. I don't care if you don't know me, an email away, a Facebook message away will show up. And there's always going to be that person, that does that for you. So reach out to them. There's no shame in the darkness and the sadness. There's no shame in that. Just reach out, embrace it, reach out. Take those steps little by little. I mean, if you think about it, my brother was killed in 2004. We're now 20 years later, and there's not a day that goes by that I don't miss him and mention him. So you speak their names, you speak your truth, because it's going to make a difference to somebody. And the most important thing that I think I really want to share with those of us that are struggling is, and I will cry now. I mean, I've been crying, but is that you matter. You matter. You're loved. You're needed. You've made a difference in this life. If you feel like you're in that dark spot, if you'll just remember this promise and make it with me, to just make it one more day. And then when you get at the end of that day, you made it through another day, make it one more day after that. Promise each day, and you'll see that there's beauty, that the darkness won't win. That's what I really wanted to come across, or share that, and hope that comes across.
Angel, that's pretty incredible. I'm absorbing all that now, and I'm looking forward to producing this, hearing it again, and that was just an amazing message. And all I could say is thank you one more time, and yeah, I'm incredibly grateful for this, and for you now to be a part of the Acknowledge to Action access point. So we're gonna stay connected. I talked to Eddie earlier in the week, and just this network is just gonna grow, and we're gonna, even though we're thousands of miles apart, with the power of the internet and networking, we're gonna stay connected, and we're gonna, we're just gonna do it. We're just gonna be there as a support, and this is just one small example of how impactful what one small access point could turn into so much value. So yeah, and would you like to dedicate a song to the Acknowledge Action playlist? I know you mentioned that with the I wrote it down, the veteran organization that makes songs.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you want to reference that, or is there another song, mainstream song, or a song that's impactful to you? Because it's a growing list. It's a pretty cool list.
I was actually excited about that part. I've been thinking
Cool.
about
All
the
right.
song I was gonna say. Our refer to the playlist. So at the 20-year reunion, they gave me 5 minutes and a song, right? Because that's what I asked for, right? So I spoke at the 20th reunion a little bit and shared why this song meant so much to me. And it's Aaron Watson, Dog Tags. And the chorus really is my sons bought me a cup that says heroes don't wear capes, they wear dog tags. And so that song touches on that. Aaron Watson's very patriotic and a diehard American. So, that song really has impacted me, and, that's including you and everybody else who ever dared to put on the uniform. The heroes aren't Superman or Batman. They're you guys. They're us, the ones that selfishly have sacrificed their lives in one form or another. So that's why that song means so much to me. I hope to someday meet Aaron Watson face to face and tell him that. So,
well, social media is going to be tagged, so he knows where to find us and find you. Okay. Well, Angel, thanks. I look forward to staying connected with you. Just appreciate what you shared today. This is just something that's gonna be incredibly impactful for so many. And then we're stay connected, and as the Acknowledge to Action podcast grows, and we have, I'm calling it like an all call. I don't know what I'm officially going to call it. You're welcome to that to be a once a month calling for veterans. I got to work out the details, but I talked to Eddie not extensively about it, but enough about it to where he's interested, where we could just all get in and just have a live chat, just kind of meet and greet. I know there's a lot of different access points out there, and it can be overwhelming some days. It's like what direction to go in or what system to log into to connect, but it's something, and that's something you're always gonna have access to and be welcome to. Okay,
look forward to it.
As we come to the close of this touching episode, I want to thank Angel Munoz for sharing her story of service, loss, and advocacy. Her journey reminds us of the strength it takes to navigate grief and the importance of community, healing, and resilience. We also touched on the therapeutic role that animals, especially horses, play in processing trauma, and how sharing our stories can be a vital step towards healing. Please keep the National Geographic miniseries The Long Road Home in mind. It offers a powerful glimpse into Robert Arsiaga's legacy and the sacrifices made by all who served with him during the intense 8-hour battle in Sadr City on April 4th, 2004. Following this conclusion, we will honor Angel's brother, Jeremy Arsiaga, and those who continue to battle with PTSD. We'll close this episode with the song Jeremy, written as a tribute to Jeremy through songwriting with soldiers. This moving piece captures the love and loss that so many families face. Thank you for joining us today. If you found this episode helpful, please share it with others who might benefit. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast for more inspiring stories and insights. Wherever you are in your journey, you are not alone, and know the journey doesn't end here. Keep pushing forward, stay connected to your community, and always strive to build strong, authentic relationships. Until next time, stay safe, be well, and keep moving forward with the power of Acknowledge to Action. This is the Acknowledge to Action podcast.
2, 3, 4. Mama called you headache. You were a pain in the ass. You'd hug me so tight, you'd crack a bone. When something bad happened, you were the first one by my side. When you were here, I was not alone. Jeremy, Jeremy, I wish you would have talked to me. Hoorah, headache the Marine. Jeremy, Jeremy, you pushed through and now you're free. I see you in colors in my dreams. It was there behind your silence. It was there behind your wall. It was waiting for you there behind your eyes. The little boy who loved to laugh was warring all along, and we never really knew it till you died. Jeremy, Jeremy, I wish you would have talked to me. Hoorah, headache the Marine. Jeremy, Jeremy, you pushed through and now you're free. I see you in colors in my dreams. The day I got the phone call, I fell to my knees. That night, heaven came to view. Bright lights down a tunnel, rainbow colors flowing peace. I saw orange and I knew it was you. Oh, Jeremy, Jeremy, I wish you would have talked to me. Hoorah, headache the Marine. Jeremy, Jeremy, you broke through and now you're free. I see you in colors in my dreams. You come to me in colors in